Hi and welcome back to my garage build. This time we actually built something. Some concrete walls. Now I know I said in the last episode that the site was ready for concrete. So why am I dumping crushed rock and still leveling the ground? Well, if I had included this in the last episode, then this episode would have suffered from severe excavator deficiency. And that's no good. You can't have an entire episode without heavy machinery. No, the cement mixer does not count. That's basically a kitchen appliance in comparison. I spread out the material and compacted it with the excavator by driving back and forth. And at the end I compacted using a vibrating plate compactor. That worked really well, even though I used a small lightweight one. Funny enough, the 35 kilo plate compactor actually made the ground feel more stable than what the 5-ton excavator did. The problem is that when I turn the tracks, it pushes the gravel sideways and loosens it again. Just the final touch now. Measure the height and remove the remaining gravel. Then we can put away the excavator and do the final compacting. I didn't know this was also called a jumping jack. In Norwegian we also have a stupid name for it. We call it a hoppetussa. And to be fair, jumping jack is kind of an exact translation of that. Once compacted, I marked out the garage with red spray, just to see where to place the foundation formwork. The text under the window that says dør, that's Norwegian and means door. This is turning into a Norwegian course. Well, back to the build. Here I'm making the formwork for the foundation. I'm going to use concrete form blocks for the wall. They are, as the name implies, made of concrete, and they stack like normal bricks. They're hollow, so you fill them with concrete after stacking them, kind of like forms. According to the manufacturers, once filled with concrete, this is just as strong as a fully cast concrete wall. Here I'm squaring up the corners. I'm using the so-called 3-4-5 method. It's a simple trick. If one side is 3 meters, the other is 4, then the diagonal should be 5. If that lines up, you have a perfect 90-degree angle. Or you can do 30 centimeters plus 40 centimeters and the diagonal is 50 centimeters. The larger the measurement you use, the more accurate it will be. I'm making the foundation form 20 centimeters wide, the same width as the blocks, and about 30 centimeters tall. I'm trying to make it as level as possible, but concrete is not my trade. I'm coming back to how the foundation turned out, but I'm afraid I had to do some adjustments to make the concrete form blocks sit level. Remember, the wall is about 240 centimeters tall when it's finished stacked, so if the first block is a couple of millimeters crooked, the top one will be a couple of centimeters crooked. So it's important to make sure that it's level. As you can see, the 2x8s I'm using as forms sit about 10 centimeters above the ground. I closed the gap with some form boards. I didn't close it completely 100%, maybe not even 50%, but it worked fine. We just mixed the concrete a bit dry, so it wouldn't run through the gaps. And by we, I mean me plus some friends and family. Thanks to their help, this was done in a couple of hours. We mixed about 1.4 cubic meters of concrete, as in 1,400 liters. Or roughly 3,000 pints of beer. Once the concrete has set, I could start removing the forms. The reason why I'm building the garage walls entirely out of concrete is that I'm going to backfill with stone and soil against the garage walls once it's finished. The last wall away from the garden doesn't necessarily have to be concrete, but I will still need a wall extending 1 or 2 meters in that direction to support the back wall and prevent it from collapsing inwards. So I decided to just build the outside wall entirely out of concrete as well. Less maintenance in the future, no wooden walls, no cladding, and no painting every few years. This is the concrete form blocks I've been talking about. This was a mostly unnecessary step, but I wanted to see how it would look and how crooked it was. After what I've seen on YouTube, the normal thing to do is to level the first layer of blocks with wooden wedges. Then pour some concrete in the first layer and lock it in place. Then remove the wedges. But I decided to put down 2 beads of concrete to put the form blocks in. Then I used the level to make sure it was level in both directions. This was really tedious. But as you know, I don't really know what I'm doing. I just try my best. This is me laying blocks. Imagine you're on your hike. You know where you want to end up, but you don't know the way. So you just start walking in a direction, find a mountain top, get there, and see where you are. Then you walk to the next one. It's exhausting, but it gets you there. I don't want to get philosophical or anything, but I think it's important to try things you don't already know how to do. Don't be afraid to start. You'll probably figure out something. Unless it's heart surgery. Then you should probably know what you're doing beforehand. Here I'm bending rebar for the first layer. I place 2 in parallel, like you see here, and then I repeat this in every other layer. The horizontal rebar is drilled into the wall on the existing garage. I also drilled holes in the foundation for vertical rebar. These are placed 25 centimeters apart, and the rebar is tied together wherever they cross, which is quite a few places. This means that every block from now on has to be threaded down over the vertical rebar. So that's fun. There's no labor like hard labor. If you've ever done a kettlebell workout holding it straight out in front of you and wondered, what am I training for? Well, this is it. And the kettlebell is 20 kilos, of course. Because why not? The blocks are laid in a running bond pattern. That means each row is offset by half a block. This makes the wall more stable and resistant to cracking. I stacked the block halfway up and then filled them with concrete. It didn't feel safe to dry stack them all the way to 2.4 meters, and it's not recommended either. On the corner of the old garage I added some rebar and built a form for a short wall. This will be one side of the garage opening. This is a pretty straightforward form build. 2x8 and some plywood. The pipe at the bottom is for rainwater drainage. I had to add a 90-degree bend because of the limited clearance. I'll remove it when I take off the forms. After completing the form, I tore down one side again. This makes it easier to pour the concrete, since the opening at the top is quite small. Then I continue stacking the rest all the way up to 2.4 meters. You might have noticed that some of the rebar is sticking up higher than 2.4 meters. That's because this is where I'm making a concrete roof. And I want to extend the rebar from the walls, bend it 90 degrees and tie it into the roof for reinforcement. I don't know if this is strictly necessary, but it seems like it can't hurt. That part will be a future video. And thanks to a good friend, the last couple of 100 blocks went up in no time. And just like that, the garage was finally stacked all the way. Now all that's left is mixing the remaining 2.5 cubic meters of concrete and filling it in the blocks. I guess I was a bit tired of the whole concrete project because I have almost no footage of us filling the last part. Then again, it's not that interesting watching me pour concrete into a wall, so maybe you didn't miss much. Anyways, that's it for this time. My name is Hammersland, and thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye.